Today's daf is daf Samach Aleph, and I apologize that we're going to have to sort of chop up the shir into little pieces because of the time, and we have to go daven and so forth and so on. But on the top of Samach Aleph, Kivrei Ovdei Kochavim Eino Mitam Biol. This is the famous shita of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, based on Shenemar V'atem V'atem Sonit Son Mar'isi Odom Atem, pasuk in the 34th chapter of Yechezkel. Atem Kuyim Odom V'ein Hovdei Kocham Kuyim Odom. Rav Shimon Bar Yochai darshans the emphasis on the word Atem in this pasuk. Odom Atem, addressing Klal Yisrael. Bnei Yisrael are called Odom. Odom Atem, to the exclusion of Hovdei Kochavim. And therefore, in the light of that interpretation of the pasuk, we go back to the parsha of Tumas Oel in Ol Ames, in Parshas Chukas, and the parsha opens up, Bamidbar Yutes pasuk Yudalad Odom Kiyomas Va'ol. So that means that a corpse of an Odom, which in this case, according to Rav Shimon Bar Yochai's diuk, deriving from Yechezkel, refers to Bnei Yisrael, the Jewish corpse is Mitami B'Oel. And that means that if the corpse and another person are under the same roof, then the person who's with the corpse, even though he had no negia, he didn't have any maga with the corpse, nevertheless, he contracts a tumah of Shivas Yomi, as if he had touched the corpse, but that is only a Jewish corpse. Now the Gemara is going to embark upon a study of various psukim to prove that the word Adam in other contexts certainly includes even Goyim. Meisvei, I'll raise the following objection in the Milchamas Midjan. It says, V'nefesh Adam, Shishasar Aleph. So it means that from the Taf and the Noshim that are Einaruyously boiled, if you recall, then we count Shishasar Elef. And we see that the Torah is using the word Nefesh Adam to refer to Goyim. So the Gemara answers, Mishum Behema. The pasuk, these psukim, are referring to divvying up the shalal, the booty that was taken from Midyan, and that includes the behemoths as well, as it says, Son ubakar v'chamorim. So since the Torah wanted to use a terminology that would include also behemoths, it uses the term Adam. Kevan sherotzat Torah lichov atem gam behema, ishtam shel biyachas legoyim lashon Adam. Because if you're setting up a relationship to behema, then even a non-Jewish person, a guy is considered Adam. But if there's no mention of behema at all, Yacharitam, then the Torah would not use the word Adam to include Goyim. It's exclusively referring to Bnei Yisrael, as it is in the Parsha B'Chukas, in Chukas of Tumas. Oh, the Gemara asks from another pasuk now in Sefer Yonah with regard to Anshe Ninveh, who was certainly, they were Ovdei Kochavim. Asher yesh ba harbe b'shteimasrei ribo Adam. Asher lo yoda ben yamino l'smolo. So we see that this pasuk is referring to Ketanim that don't know how to differentiate between right and left, if you tell them right and left. But we see that the Torah, the Mikra, uses the word Adam, even though it's referring to Goyim, Tanshe Ninveh. And this is against Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. So the Gemara answers Mishum Behema once again, since in that context it mentions Behema Rabbah, in the next part of the pasuk. Therefore, once you're mentioning Behema together with Goyim, then you describe the Goyim, who are human beings, as Adam in contrast to the Behema. But when Adam is written alone, without Behema in context, then Adam refers to Bnei Yisrael and not to Goyim. Gemara asks from another pasuk again in the parasha of Midjan. It says, "Kol oreg nefesh v'chol nogeh b'chalal tischatu b'yom hashlishi b'yom hashvi," etc. So we're talking about the requirement of hazah written in this pasuk on shlishi and shvi may offer para aduma, like all other tmei mason. And the Torah says that hargim bagoyim tmeim shivas yomim. We put to death these goyim that are tmeim shivas yomim. So you see that they are metamim, and that's against Rabbi Shimon, who says that a goy is not metamim. And the Gemara answers that when those who went out to battle, and they returned from the battlefield, and they were tmeim shivas yom, they required hazah b'shlishi b'shvi. That's not because they killed goyim, and the pasuk is not referring to horeg nefesh goyim, but rather because again nefesh goyim would not be metamim, and you wouldn't require hazah shlishi and shvi, but rather dilma aktil chad mi Yisrael. Perhaps during the course of the battle we lost a Jewish soldier, and therefore perhaps they came in contact with the corpse of a Jew, and Yisrael is certainly metame, and therefore to cover our bases, the Torah required hazah and shlishi and shvi. So the Gemara asks for Rabbanon. They disagree. They reject Reb Shimon. They hold that even kivrei akama metamu. They hold it's impossible to interpret that the reason why we need hazas efer para shivas yamim is because of the chashash that maybe there was contact with a Jewish corpse. The pasuk says, "Below nifkad mimenu each." That when they took a census, they realized that every single Jewish soldier went out to battle against Midian came back alive. No one was killed. And therefore, it's impossible to assume that they needed Tara of the Ephraim part because maybe they came in contact with the Jewish corpse that was killed by the Anshe Midian. There was no such thing as a Jewish corpse. It says, "V'lo nifkad mimenu ish." So Reb Shimon bar Yochai, how do we defend him? How's he going to answer this pasuk, "Lo nifkad mimenu ish," and then say that the reason why you need hazah is because of a Jewish corpse when there was no Jew that was killed? So the Gemara answers that Rav Shimon bar Yochai reinterprets the pasuk. Shelo nifkad mimenu ish le'avera. The pasuk is testifying that despite the fact that the Jews had taken the Benos Midian captive, not one single Jew had an immoral relationship with the Benos Midian. Lo nifkad mimenu ish le'avera. Lo chata af echad mi'anshei milchama Benos Midian. But as we said before, according to Reb Shimon bar Yochai, it's quite possible that there was a Jewish soldier that was killed, and that some of the Jews may have had contact with that Jewish corpse, and therefore we require hazah b'meicha. So Ravina Omar, perhaps we can reinterpret the pasuk lo nifkad mimenu ish, that again, not one Jew was killed, but the Tara of Mei Efer Para was necessary because of the Arigas B'nai Midian. And why is so? Nehi Dimatinu Kra, according to the drasha of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, the Torah excluded the Kivrei Ovdei Kocham from Oel, but right? The oil, the ksiv adam kiyamas oil. However, mimaga umimasa mimatinukra. The Torah never excluded the corpse of a guy from conveying tumah to someone who came in direct contact or carried that corpse. Again, there's no tumas oil. So therefore, when the pasuk says "V'lakach ezo v'tavel b'mayim v'hiza," etc., there it doesn't say the word Adam at all. And Midian and Goyim were only excluded from Tumas Oel, but not from Tumas Magu Masa. So as a result of Tumas Magu Masa, even Reb Shimon Bar Yochai will admit that Ovdei Kochav Mitamim, Tumas Magu Masa. And that's why those who may have come in contact with Haruge Midjan would require Azav may offer Efer Paraduma V'Shlishi V'Shvi. And that leads us to the Mishnah here in the top half of Samach Aleph Amud Aleph. And now the Mishnah is referring to a Kohen Hedot She'ires Es Almana. Right, he's allowed to marry an Almana. And Isman Aliyos Kohen Gadol. After the Erison, he was appointed the Kohen Gadol, who's not allowed to marry an Almana. It says Almana, etc., etc. Ela, as Ela lo Yikach. He's permitted to take the Almana into the Chuppah. Umaisa b'Yeshua Gamla shekidesh es morsa bas baitus umino hamelech lios kohen gadol uknasa. Now this Barta bas baitus was a very wealthy almana. She had inherited a wealth of money from her former husband who's deceased. And Yeshua ben Gamla, we don't know exactly if he's a tzaddik or not, but anyway, he was Ma'ares, Erison, and Yeshua ben Gamla is a Kohen Hedjed at this point, this Baitus, who's an Almana, which is finally okay. But then, Yanai HaMelech appointed Yeshua ben Gamla as the Kohen Gadol. And then Yeshua ben Gamla, Kansa, he married her. And that means that since the Keducha were Beheter, when he was still a Kohen Hedjed, he's allowed to be Konesah. Shomeres Yavam, so her husband died without banim, and she needs Yibum, and she's waiting for one of the brothers, the surviving brothers, to be miyabim her. That's called Shomeres Yavam. Shenafla lifnei Kohen Hedjed. So now she falls for Yibum in front of a Kohen Hedjed. So she's an almana, so there's no problem. But then, after the nefila for Yibum, nisman aliyos Kohen Gadol. Now she's an almana to a Kohen Gadol. Is afal bishasa b'maimar, even if, as he was a Kohen Hedjed before being appointed and upgraded to the status of Kohen Gadol, he was Makadish her. Nevertheless, Harei Zolu Yichus. And the Gemara is going to explain why a Yevamot is arselo ba'odu Kohen Hedjed lo Yichus. Even though we said before that Almana is arselo Yichus. Ton Rabbanon minayin shim eres Kohen Hedjed es Almana hamuteres lo v'nismana achakach lios Kohen Gadol ha'osr b'almana sheyichnos. How do we allow bringing this almana into the chuppah? Now the Kohen has been appointed as a Kohen Gadol, and she's an almana. Talmud Lomar, the pasuk says, "Ki im besula me'amav yikach isha," and the word isha, this pasuk is superfluous, and it's coming to be marba Kohen Gadol, who can marry an almana since he was makadish her already as a Kohen Hedjed. He says the Gemara, the obvious question that we raised before in the Mishnah, Shomeres Yavam Nami. Why do we say that a Shomeres Yavam? And to boot, even after Maimon, when he was a Kohen Hedjed, is not allowed to be Kones. And the Gemara answers, the pasuk says, Yikach Isha. Isha hi tira Torah. Yachal lichnos. V'lo Yevamot. The word Isha, which is superfluous, is coming to exclude as a miyut Yevamot. That in the case of Yevamot, Eino Yachal Lichnos. Now that he was appointed as a Kohen Gadol, he cannot be miyabim her because he's enjoined from an almana. Afshin nofel lefanav liyibum biyoso Kohen Hedjed kevan sheyavma Came and she Yevamot, excuse me, Eina Nikres Isha. HaTorah lo kara liyevama Isha, elo liacher shalakacha deksiv lakacha lo v'lakcha lo liisha v'yibma. Now we get to the Maisa of Yoshua, who was Makadesh Marta bas Baitus, and then he was appointed by the king as a Kohen Gadol. And Yoshua ben Gamla went ahead and he was Onesa. Mino, it says Mino in the singular, and that means the king appointed him. The brothers, meaning the holy brothers of the Kohanim and the Sanhedrin, they didn't appoint Yoshua ben Gamla. Otherwise, the Mishnah should have used the word nismana. He was appointed. Lo, it doesn't say it in the Mishnah. Amar of Yosef Katir. Katir is what's called a kesher shel rishonim. I see here something is not is something is smells fishy, is foul. Tiamar of Asi Tarkaba the Dinrim Ailile Marta Basbitus. Martus was so wealthy that she gathered together 3 kabim, a massive amount of dinrei zav, and gave it as a gift to Yanai HaMelech. Well, it says here, Ishto shel Yeshua ben Gamel, Yanai Malka, ad Mokile, until he appointed Yeshua ben Gamel the Konei Ravav. Konei Ravav means as a Kohen Gadol. So they would buy the position of a Kohen Gadol. And basically, what's being said here is that this Yeshua ben Gamla was not roy to become the Kohen Gadol. He bought his way and purchased the position. The Mishnah says, Kohen Gadol shemes achiv. And now his wife falls for Yibum to the Kohen Gadol. He's a brother of the late Kohen Hedjel. He cannot be miyabim because the Torah says Almana lo yika, and we're not going to apply the principle of esei dochalosas. So Gemara says kapasik v'tani lo shna mina erisin lo shna mina nesuin. It doesn't matter whether the late brother of the Kohen Gadol had brought this woman into Nisuin, or it was only Erisin. So the Gemara says the following. I don't understand. Bishlei mimina Nisuin. I can understand why he's not allowed to be miyabim her, because the assay of Besula Bi'am of Yika combines with the lotus of Almana lo Yika. The ain essay, and there's no power in the mitzvah of Yevamot Yavolel Kacholo Lisha, to be doche a losa 7 essay. Ella mina erisin yavo essay v'yidches losa se. If the late brother only had erisin with this woman, then she's still a besula. So there's no violation of the essay of besula b'yam of yikachisha. There's only an issue of almana. So why isn't the essay of Yevama doche the losaseh of Almana lo yikach? And the Gemara answers, Gzeira be a Rishona or to be a Shnia. If we'll apply essay dochalosa to the first bia, then mistakenly the Yava might apply that same principle and find a license even to be a Shnia. And that is a very severe Isser bia Shnia, because there's no mitzvahs Yibum in the bia Shnia. And we cannot apply the principle of Esei Docha Losa. So we're left with the Losa of Almana lo Yikach. And therefore, even if she fell for Yibum to him from Erison, which means that she's a Psula, Choletz V'enam Yamim, Atu Bia Shnia. The Mishnah says, Kohen Hedjel, Lo Yisal Islandis, we will not allow a Kohen, even a Hedjel, to marry an islandess, because she has the status of a zona, at least according to Rabbi Yehuda. But according to Tanakama, actually, this is not zona, because he says Elim Kain Yeshlo Isha ubanim. If he already fulfilled the mitzvah period of Rivya, then he's allowed to marry an islandess. But if he needs to marry a woman who can bear him children and fulfill the mitzvah period of Rivya, he's not allowed to marry an islandess. And Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Afal Picha Yeshlo Icho Banim. He already fulfilled the mitzvah period of Rivya. Nevertheless, he'll use an islandess. He cannot marry an islandess. Why not? She's Zona Amura B'Torah. The status of an islandess is equal to that of a Zona. And we're going to have to explain that in the Gemara. The Chachamim Omrim, Ein Zona El Giores, V'Shenivala Bi'ilas Znus. There's no reason or rhyme to assume that an islandess has the status of a Zona. Why is that so? She wasn't Nivala Bi'ilas Znus. My timer, why is it that the Mishnah says that a Kohen's not allowed to marry an islandess? Mishum period of Rivya. And if this woman is not capable of bearing him children, is therefore the Mishnah says you're not allowed to marry her. She's an islandess. So the Gemara asks, "A period of Rivya Kohen Bilvado de Mifki Yisrael lo Mifkadi?" He asks him a rhetorical, a ridiculous question. And a non-Kohen is not part of the double negative. It's not obligated in the midst of bringing children into this world. A period of Rivya, for sure he is. So why don't you generate this Isur to marry an islandess, even for Yisrael, not just for a Kohen? What's it got to do with the Kohen? The mitzvah period of Rivya is not limited to a Kohen. Amalei, so Rav Huna responds that surely that din is correct. But the reason why the Mishnah mentioned Kohen is Mishum de Kaboy Lemisnei Seifa Rabbi Yehuda Omer Afal Pi Sheyeshlo Isha. Nevertheless, he Zona Hasura Hamura Batorah Vilo Yisa Kohen. And on the top of Samach Aleph Amid Beis, the Yeshlo Banim, even if he has children and he already fulfilled the mitzvah period, nevertheless Lo Yisa islandess, she's Zona Amura B'Torah. That's the view of Rabbi Yehuda, that an islandess has the status of a Zona. The Azona Kohen who do Mifkadei Yisrael Lo Mifkadei Mishum Hachi Ktani Kohen. So the word Kohen in this Mishnah is only introduced in order to lead up to Rabbi Yehuda's sheet of Afal Picha Yeshlo Isha, Yeshlo Banim, nevertheless Lo Yisa islandess, and that's specifically regarding a Kohen because the Torah prohibits him from marrying a Zona Isha, Zona Mechalolo Yikachu. And now the Gemara is going to try to analyze why is the islandess a Zona?